Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another water tanks review. This time featuring the T57 heavy tank, the American Autoloader Tier 10. As usual, I'm going to have a quick talk about the line, how you get to this tank. Then we're going to go through some crew skills, equipment choices, go over the stats of the tank, so we can have a brief overview of it before I give you my impressions of it and jump straight into the gameplay. So, without further ado, let's start looking at the line. Now, this is a very strange line, and I've heard some pretty negative things about it before. As you can see, it starts the M2 Light, M3 Stewart, M5, M7, T21, da 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 da. Now, why don't people like this line? Well, I'll tell you. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about up to Tier 5 and 6. These tanks you kind of stick around with for not very long. I can give you some impressions. The M7 I remember being a really pretty good tank. Gets a pretty sweet 75mm. Again, it's okay, not amazing. T21 wasn't blown away. It's not all that fast. It's got good camo, but it's a light tank. Gets scout matchmaking, kind of meh. Not a great tank. However, from the T71 to the 57 heavy, all of these tanks, these four here, T71, T69, T54E1 and the T57 heavy, these tanks are absolute beasts. They are incredibly good. Honestly, I would compare it to the Waffle Traeger line in that although the Waffle Traeger Tier 7 isn't really that good, whereas the Tier 8, 9 and 10 are all absolute monsters, this really, 7 to 10, there aren't any bad tanks. The drawbacks of this line is that gold ammo is a thing for the 8 and 9, and when I say it's a thing, I mean you really need to carry quite a lot of it to make these tanks effective. Anyway, T71 light tank, fantastic camo. It's a scout tank, as you can see by the size of it here, but it's a scout tank, very nippy, no armor, but does get this lethal autoloader. 175 pen, 150 damage per shell, 6 shells in the magazine, 900 damage in the magazine, and you can get away this magazine really quickly. No more to say about that. You can get the magazine away in 10 seconds. Not amazingly accurate, however, not a long reload time either. I mean, this thing, with gold, it gets 210 penetration. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be flanking and scouting in this thing anyway. But anyway, I've done a video on that on the T71, so I won't talk too much about it. T69, again, just kind of really the same thing. Gets pretty good. Gets a pretty good gun. It gets kind of the same as a T69, and it gets about a 900 damage clip, but it gets it away in 4 shots as opposed to 6, which you may not think makes a huge difference, but it really kind of does. It gets slightly more accurate. However, the standard pen, 173 at Tier 8, is really lacking. These tanks, the standard ammo at Tier 8 and 9 is really pretty low, and at Tier 10 in fact it's not great either. However, these tanks are pretty, they're not slow, but they're not fast either, and they're not really immaneuverable, but I wouldn't call them agile. So you really have to flank and get into positions where you can make these guns work. However, with gold ammo, you kind of remove that need, and I don't want to sound like a huge noob, but gold ammo on these tanks makes them, I wouldn't even say borderline overpowered, I'd just say very overpowered. T69 again, bit of a monster, 250 pen with the gold ammo. It's not always necessary, but 173 pen with 0.3 accuracy, firing at any Tier 9 heavy or Tier 8 heavy really, you're going to have real problems. The T54E1, my favourite Tier 9 tank to date. Pretty bad armour, it's a pretty big tank, it's not amazingly fast, however it does get almost 1600 damage in its clip, and with the gold ammo you got 255 penetration, and it's APCR, not heat. Real monster tank. You can really crush things. Yeah, just really good. Then you move on to the T57 heavy. Now, one thing I will say about this line is that it goes from a light tank to a medium to another medium to a heavy, which means that if you want to use the same crew, you're going to have to use quite a lot of gold to keep switching them over. On top of that, again, premium ammo for this line is really quite important. You can do it with standard ammo, but you're really limiting yourself, because again, these tanks are not medium. They are mediums, but they're not Russian mediums. Okay, because when you look at medium tanks, if you look at the British and the German medium tanks, they're big, they're not amazingly fast, they've got not great camo, but what they do have is really accurate high penetration guns, so they make up for their bad camo and their sluggishness compared to other medium tanks by having really obscene guns that can really peg stuff at range. Now these tanks, they are again slow. For a medium tank, they're slow, sluggish, bad armor, but their guns with standard ammo, they're not that good. 0.3 accuracy and 173 pen at tier 8 is bad, but they do get autoloaders, and that's their advantage. So anyway, and again, but the nice thing about that is you can negate that disadvantage, the disadvantage of accuracy and pen, with gold ammo. Anyway, the T57 doesn't really suffer from any of these problems. And I'll go into why in a second. 2,250 health, more than the E5. E5 gets 50 more health than the E5, which is kind of interesting. It's 54 tons rather. Again, about the same as the E5. In fact, if you look at the E5 hull and then look at the hull of the T57, pretty similar. Their T57s, as you can see, the profile's a bit bigger from the side. It's a bit of a bigger tank. It's got a smaller turret, but it's a bit of a bigger tank. 810 horsepower engine, top speed of 35 kilometers an hour, compared to this tank, which gets 875 horsepower engine. Now, they've got pretty similar top speeds, as you can see, 37 to 35. However, this tank is way slower, and you can see it in the traverse speed. In fact, no, that's a complete lie. You can't see it in the traverse speed. Oh, very interesting. If you look at these raw stats, guys, you can see that these tanks are pretty similar. They weigh about the same, they've got the same traverse speed, pretty similar top speed limits. Only difference is the E5 gets about 60 more horsepower, but the E5 is way more manoeuvrable. It accelerates faster, it gets up to its top speed quicker. It feels like a much more nimble tank, and that's not represented in the stats. Anyway, moving on to the hull armor: 203, 50, 30, 38. If you're fighting against this tank, if you shoot it in the side, it's got 50 armor. That's going to go in at tier 10, no matter what, almost no matter what angle you shoot it at. 203 on the front. Again, it's kind of got the weird American armor, which means there's a band about here. You see where my mouse is circling? Around this crease in the hull, there's a band about here that is 203 armor, and it's at quite a nasty angle. If you fire stuff here, it will bounce. However, this band here, down here, which is under the band that kind of runs along here in a bit of an arc, if you shoot it here, it's got 127 armor, and as you can see, not much of an angle if you look there. So if you see this thing head on, right there, and it's going to go in. This is not a well armored tank, really isn't. The turret armor is 127 at the front, so along here, it's quite well curved. If you look at it from the top, it's got this nice curved front turret. However, it is with these oscillating turrets, and they're not amazing really anywhere in the turret you like, guys. Anywhere along here, just try not to hit here if they're staring right at you. Does have a cupola, however you can just shoot anywhere in the turret realistically you like, and you're going to go in. So it really, again, if you have to shoot the hull, shoot there, otherwise shoot the turret. There's plenty of spots on this tank. From the side, anywhere you like. Side of the turret is 137, it's very flat, not much you can bounce off there. So really guys, here, there, anywhere on the side or the back, this is not a well armoured tank, just to reiterate that. Let's have a look at the gun. 120mm, 4 shells in the magazine, 2-second load time. Now, to compare that to the other tier 10 autoloader heavy tank, We could compare it to the Waffle Traeger, but it's not really much of a comparison. This shoots shells every 2.5 seconds. This shoots every 2. Now for those of you that don't really understand what that means, so in your clip you have 4 shells in both of these tanks. So when you fire a shell, it takes a certain amount of time for the next shell in that clip to be loaded. And as you can see, on the American it's 2 seconds. On the 50B, which is the American French Heavy, What am I talking about? It's the French Heavy tank. Takes 2.5. Now, when you fire, that's quite a difference. That's a 2-second difference. That means that the T57 Heavy can get all its shells away 2 seconds faster. Okay. T57 Heavy reloads 5 seconds quicker. Very, very similar pen. Same average damage. Same accuracy. Better aiming time. T57 Heavy really has it over the 50B's gun. I'll be quite honest with you. 50B's gun has no advantage over the 57 Heavy. This is just, you can't even look at it objectively and say, well, this is better on the 50B. It's just the 57 Heavy just gets a better gun. 50B's better in other ways. It's a much faster tank, so it can get into positions quicker. It's got pretty similar armor, pretty bad but can bounce. Both of them share that kind of thing, but the 57 Heavy has a much better gun. But again, let's just look at this gun on its own. So 400 damage, 4 shells in the magazine, takes 2 seconds to load each shell. Now if you start counting from the first shell fired, that means it takes 6 seconds to get all 4 shells away. Okay, yeah, 6 seconds to do 1600 damage. 0.35 accuracy. I have to say, sometimes it feels a bit worse than that when you're trying to fire at stuff over 400 meters away. You do feel it, although, and again, the pen isn't fantastic. However, and again, the aiming time is not great either. And sometimes the Americans do have this problem. So as you can see, I have a gun laying drive and vertical stabilizers, and I'll tell you why that is. It's because it takes 2 seconds to load a shell, but the aiming time is 2.7 seconds, which means that to get your aiming time, so you fire a shell, but your next shell is loaded before your reticle is completely zoned in again. Okay, so really, and that's what autoloaders are all about. It's about getting your damage away as fast as you can, and then pulling yourself out of danger. And I'll show you a lot of that in my replays. But anyway, that's the real kind of crushing thing here. 2.7 aiming time to 2 seconds shell loading. So which is why I've got the vert stabs, the vents, and the gun laying drive to get that aiming time down as much as I possibly can. Again, 0.35 accuracy. It feels a bit worse than that in some situations, but I won't complain too much about it. So yeah, the gun really is an absolute beast. I have to say, even though I hate the IS-7's gun, this only has 8 more pen. It's got much better accuracy, but I feel this gun, I don't use gold, as you can see. I have 2 clips of gold ammo in this tank, and I very rarely use it. When I do use it, it's pretty much to pen E100s, Mouses, and Jagdpanzer E100s, and that's pretty much it. Every other tank, just trying to think, unless I might be wrong, maybe an E3 from the front, depending, but that's really more of an accuracy thing. I really think that's about it, actually. So really, only the German heavy, big tanks, you need gold ammo. And the reason why I think that is really, guys, because what I think is really strong about this tank more than anything else is that this loading time for a clip, 25 seconds flat, if you've got Brothers in Arms and vents, that comes down to about 21 seconds. That is not a long time. That really is not a long time. The DPM on this tank is really quite obscene. And I mean, if you think about it, 25 seconds is enough time for an IS-7 to get 2 shots away. That tank rolls for 490. You can get an entire clip away and have reloaded and basically have loaded your next clip and fired that by the time the i7 will have his third shot away. So you can do 1600 times 2, 3200. You can do 3200 damage pretty much in the same amount of time that an i7 can do 1500 damage. You could do, you've got over double DPM, and because of the way that autoloaders work, is you can dictate the fight all the time. Okay, as long as you make sure your shots pen, and that's why really I think this tank is so strong, and I really can't say enough about that, because you can drive around a corner and it doesn't even matter if you're 1v1ing another tank, say like an i7 or an e5. It doesn't even matter if they shoot you half the time, because oh look, the i7's just shot you for 490 damage. Oh, you've just fired 4 shells into him for 1600 damage, and then you just reverse around the corner, wait until you've reloaded, which is not a very long time, and you just do it again and you've killed him. You can, yeah, and it's almost like cheating. I talk about peeker booming when you go around corners and trade shots with tanks. In this, they get 1 shot into you and you get 4 into them. It's almost like cheating. It really is. And that's really my opinion of. I mean, obviously it's not like that all the time. Sometimes you do get caught on a reload, and knowing when to reload is a big thing with these tanks. But yeah, honestly, I'll go into my opinion of the tank in a second, so I'll save that. But yeah, enough about the gun. 400 view range, really really good. 750 signal range, really good as well. Crew skills. This is a very, as you can see, a very highly trained crew. That's because I had a T34 which I ended up selling because I hated it. I did the American heavy line, and this crew was in my E5 originally, and then I moved it into my 57 heavy. Why? Well, because I feel like heavy tank, as you can see, my crew on my E5 isn't very good. But that's because I feel like heavy tanks, medium tanks, and tanks with autoloaders benefit from better crews, because I'd much rather have a better crew on this than on my E5, flat out. I just would. It's just me. Maybe other people may think differently, but hey. So as for crew skills, repairs, pretty standard on heavy tanks. Although you could get away without repairs on this tank, I think. Most of the time, you're not really in a position. It is a heavy tank, but it's a bit deceptive. This does not, by any stretch of the imagination, fill the same role as an IS-7, or an E100, or an E5, or a 113, or a mouse, or anything like that. This plays much more like a medium tank, because the E5, out of all the heavies, plays a lot like a medium. This plays even more. This is a support tank, okay? Now, every time I used to hear this, well, in fact, really still do, every time I hear the term support tank, what I basically think is, all a support tank is a tank that isn't good enough to go toe to toe with other tanks of its tier. And I still think that to this day. I think this and the 50B are really the only true support tanks in the game. Just my opinion, but that's what I think it is. You get people saying, I don't know, what do people describe? Like the Carnarvon, for example, a support heavy, because it's got a really accurate gun, and it's got good pen, it's got good DPM. Okay, fine, but if you want an accurate gun and good DPM, why would you take a heavy tank? You take a medium, because people see the Carnarvon as a support tank, because it's a heavy tank, but it hasn't got any armour, it just gets penned everywhere. I don't know. This whole thing about quote-unquote support tanks, I think is complete bollocks. I think this and the 50B are the only support tanks in the game. They're not slow, and they've got guns that are way better than the other tier 10 heavies. Way better, because they got autoloaders. And if you play it right, and as I said before, you can get 4 shots into someone, and they can get 1 shot into you. And that's only in the worst case scenario. Half the time you can get 4 shots into someone and reverse around the corner. If you just wait, if you use a third person camera, you're watching a target, you're waiting to pick your moment, the target fires at someone else. You've now got 10 plus seconds to unload a 6-second clip into them, and you've got all the time in the world to just blap shots into them. Anyway, enough about that. So yeah, repairs, brothers in arms, vital to get that reload time down. I think really, really vital on this, above pretty much every other tank. I would say that brothers in arms on autoloaders, because you can't fit a gun you can't fit a gun rammer. Really, really important. Then I went for specific skills, and then even more specific skills after that. Equipment I've kind of talked briefly about already, but for me, I take everything I can to get the aiming time down, so I can get clips away quickly and as accurately as possible. Other alternatives? I don't think there are any. You wouldn't take you wouldn't take optics. Some people may want to drop gun laying drive for optics, but this isn't a scout tank, guys. It's it's not a medium in a tier 10 game. You fill the role as if the E100 and the I7 are tanks that push in tier 10 games, which is what they are, then you've got the E5, which is like a heavy medium hybrid. Then you've got the mediums, which spot and flank. You've got the tank destroyers, which hold key points on the map and snipe. This tank is a support. This is a true DPS, support tank. Okay, this is really what it is. It provides damage, and it's mobile, and not only does it provide damage, but it provides that damage in a very short window, 1600 damage away in 6 seconds. And the really crushing thing about autoloaders as well is that, and you'll notice this when you're playing them, okay, so you'll spot a tank, you'll aim and you'll fire. The first round will hit the tank, okay, and I've done this exact same thing. So your first round will hit the tank, you'll see them react, this exact phrase will go through their head. Okay, I'm out here in the open, I'm trying to aim at this other tank on the other side of the map. I've just been shot. Okay, well, I've been shot, so there's no point me moving now, because I've already been shot by the tank that's seen me. It doesn't matter, I may as well sit here and finish what I was doing and then get back into cover before he's reloaded. Does that make sense? If you've already been shot, then what's the point in moving? Okay, if there's more than one tank, there's more than one tank looking at you, then fine, then you should move before you get hit again. But people sometimes think that because they've been hit once, the tank that shot them is on a reload, but you've got an autoloader, so you can hit them. So you hit them once and they don't even bother moving, because I think that's all you've got, and then you just nail 3 more rounds into them, and you'll see a bit of that in the replays. But anyway, so again, I would just go with these 3. You can take coded optics if you like. Wouldn't recommend a camo net, even though the camo on this tank isn't bad, but hey. Don't bother taking explosive shells. I normally say to take at least a couple, but in an autoloader, there's no point taking an explosive shell clip. Having said that, having literally just said that, that's maybe not entirely true. For Clan Wars, if you need to reset, you can, drive suicide and just get 3 rounds on everyone in the cap and reset all their cap points. That's not a bad idea either, quite honestly. However, it's not normally you doing that, so meh. Anyway, it's kind of up to you guys. Sometimes it might be allowed to take an explosive clip. For randoms, I take 28 normal, 8 explosive. Pretty standard setup down here. Now, my thoughts about this tank. In a nutshell, I think this is, out of all the tier 10s I have, I think this is by far and away the strongest tier 10 that I have. People always told me it was really strong, and I knew it was, and I didn't actually buy this for a while. Yeah, I had it unlocked for about a month or so before I actually bothered to grind the credits to buy it. And really, it's even stronger than I thought it was. Honestly, I prefer it to this. I prefer the T57 over this. It's got a similar-ish. I mean, if you ever look at this gun compared to the T57. Oops. Why is that? Oh, because I can look at the E5. Sorry, my bad. So, if you look at this, this has 1600 damage in its clip, 25-second reload. This has 3000. How much is it? 3150? 3,300 damage in its clip, with a 60-second reload. This, if you're just going to fire shells, has more DPM than this tank. I mean, and I think that I would rather, so really, I would rather have this tank over the Waffle Traeger E100. It's got better camo, it's better armoured, it's faster, it's smaller. Yeah, I really would rather have this tank, and that's really reflected in how I play with it. I think that what it loses in terms of damage in a clip, accuracy, aiming time, I think it gains because it's actually got some camouflage. You can move around without being seen. It's faster, again, smaller. I just think that for all the things it loses compared to the Waffle Traeger, I think what it gains is way more important. You know, the problem with the Waffle Traeger is that it sacrifices so much to have this gun. It sacrifices armor, speed, camouflage, you know, you name it sacrifices it. This, whilst it does a really strong gun, and the armor's not great, and it's not that fast, and its camo's not that good, at least it still has some speed, some armor, some camo, whereas this has no armor. It's not slow, but it's certainly not quick, and it's huge, and it's got the worst camo in the game. So I would rather have this tank for randoms to play a million times over. Obviously for clan wars they've got different uses, and I'm not going to go too much into that. So as you can tell, my impression of this tank is I love it. I really can't say enough about it. I'll just show you my stats for this line. So if you have a look, the average experience, T69, this is my tanks, my average experience tanks. If you notice, all the T69, the tier 8, the T54E1, the tier 9, and the T57 heavy are all in my top 5. I earn over 1,000 experience per game on average with all those tanks. T69, I managed about 1900 damage per game. Not great, I have to say, but I feel like the ammo lets it down a little bit. T54E1, I averaged 2800 damage per game, which is, just to give you some idea, when you're applying for good clans, for clan wars and stuff, they require you to have about 2.5k damage per game in your, and again, this is not a general rule, but from what I've seen, 2.5k damage per game in your tier 10s. I did 2.8k in a tier 9, and the T57 heavy, I averaged 4100 damage per game. I've played 30 games, and my win rate is not even that good. Okay, my destruction, I kill 4.6 tanks for every time I die in this tank. I mean, it is what it is, you know. Destroyed 70 vehicles in 30 games. Maximum damage, you know, I mean, the stats speak for themselves. I don't know if it's just me and the fact that this tank really suits my playstyle, but I think this is an absolute monster. Anyway, I've spoken enough. This tank is an absolute beast, and I'm going to show you guys that right about now. First replay. Okay guys, here we go. I started this replay about halfway through. You haven't missed much at all. They've still got 14 tanks left. I've done 400 damage, so again, you really haven't missed much. But this replay is basically to show what this tank can do as a quote-unquote support tank. Literally is just a DPS monster. To me, this tank is about getting into position where you can use that gun, use that autoloader to just crush the other team as hard and fast as possible. And I'll show you what I mean by that. The good old Comrin. Everyone hates this map, and I completely understand why. Again, you want to try and take advantage of where your team is. You can see where I'm sitting here. The only reason I'm allowed to do that is because my team have completely taken this flank. They've got 14 tanks left, and they're literally all in this area here. And I'm in a pretty good spot to take advantage of that. Currently on a reload, just kind of waiting right now for my chance to strike. And again, this thing reloads, I mean, so quickly. It really does. I was amazed when I first started playing this tank, just how quickly it reloads. But anyway, here we go. It's E75 spotted. Where is it? Now I get spotted. Oops. As you can see, I roll back just fast enough to not get hit by the 183. I do, however, take a hit from the WZ. Now that's the problem about this map, again, is that sometimes you can roll out and all sorts of stuff can shoot you. You really need to be careful. I was really lucky that the 183 only hit my... I'm lucky that I instantly reversed as soon as I knew I was spotted, because sometimes you really have to do it. Anyway. And still, you know, again, water tanks, guys, it's all about patience. Never put yourself into a position where you think you're going to die. And I know that sounds stupid, but staying alive, you know, it's not worth getting that extra bit of damage if you're going to die. This game all about risk reward. Okay, there's no point just YOLOing in trying to get some damage if you're going to get completely crushed. Anyway, here we go. Power of the T57. 1, 2. Notice how I knew he turned his turret, so I aimed at his turret because I knew that's where I was going to pin. 2 shots. 3, 4. Set him on fire with the last one, and he burns out. Now that was 3,000, just under 3,400 damage in about 6 seconds. Not waffle Traegers can't compete with that. Well, they can, in fact, but you know, waffle Traegers don't have reloads like this, and they're not, you know, again, you know, they're not this tank. And again, guys, not to really ram this in, I've already reloaded. Now, I've seen I just got spotted. I know that guy's aiming at me. I take a cheeky shot, pull back instantly. Again, it's not worth. You stay alive. I could have unloaded my clip on that guy. I probably could have killed him. He could have been dead right now. But it's not worth me taking a big hit from him. It is a 183. So I know I've seen him move, and because I know he's moved, I know his gun dispersed. I know that he can't be aimed directly at me anymore. So I roll out again. I can see him moving. Another round in, and there we go. Grab another reload. 3,400 damage. And this is what I mean by a support tank. You get to a point on the map where you can support the advance of your team. So when they light them up, you knock them down. And it's just the epitome of this tank and why I like it so much. And again, just waiting for the spots. Just wait. And there we go. Another spot comes up. 268. I duck out. 268's got pretty tricksy armour. First shot goes kind of wide. Accuracy on this sometimes does troll you. At this range, 450 meters, I'm literally just firing at the tank. If you can see, I am aiming slightly to the right, and that's because you know that's where the flatter part of the armour is. So on a 268, always aim for one side or the other, not directly in the middle. But again, at this range, the shells go all over the place, so penning or not is a bit of a lottery. Someone else manages to finish him off. Good shot, buddy. 100. Reloading again. 4,200 damage. Again, just using this tank just as an absolute, you know, yeah, just savage, really. And look, already reloaded. Clip's already clip clunk goes in right now. Ready to spit out another 1,600 damage on something. This is an absolute death machine. Really can't say enough about it. 7-1 is doing really what he should be. He's going for the spots. He knows. I mean, I really just commend that guy. Sander can too. He's one of the last mediums alive. He needs to do the spotting, and all credit to him. He's doing it. Something takes a swing at him. Driving in that forest is always a nightmare, but someone has to do it. Someone has to be the sacrificial lamb. I see the WZ. I don't decide to go for him. Someone else finishes off the E100. That's alright. Hit the side of that guy's turret. That shell dips way low. Where is he? Where is he? To get the final shot in. 357. But hey, not a big deal. Centurion ammo racks him. Pull back again. Reload. And again, think about this compared to the waffle Traeger, and the Waffenträger, and I really think this is a big deal because of how fast this thing is to reload its clip. You're not afraid to just take those shots when they come up. It doesn't, you know, just you could just feel like it doesn't matter if if you fuck up a shot in the Waffenträger, you've got a minute reload. That's crushing. This, you've got 20 seconds. It's no time at all. So you really feel like you can take those shots, and a lot of the time they do pay off. Anyway, there's 268. And again, hitting him in the side, making sure to take my time with each shot, making sure the shots connect. And again, completely crushed, 5,700 damage. Just chilling up back here, playing the support tank role, waiting for stuff to get lit up, and just absolutely abusing it from range. Now, I looked at the AT-15, I could have penned him, but I feel like I want to help out a Centurion, as he did man up and go and spot for everyone, and I really wanted to help him out because of that. So, I do. Sadly, he does go down, but, I did my best. That shot goes way over, as you can see. Fire off one last shot that actually hits my friend. Sometimes it happens in this tank. 6,300 damage, and that's pretty much the end of that. I hope you guys really understand that this tank, yeah, I did 6,300 damage, more like 6,000 damage from sitting in that one spot, blapping stuff as it lights up. It's got the accuracy, it's got the pen, and it's got the brute DPM to do that to people. Anyway, next replay. The next replay, guys, here we go, Corellia. Now, I showed you guys what this can do as a support tank on Cormoran, and now I'll show you what it can do as a frontline fighter. Now, when I say frontline fighter, you don't want to be taking hits in this tank, but you can still be aggressive at the front of your team and pose a threat, and I'll show you what that means right now. So, I like this position right here, where I'm pointing to right now. You don't want to sit here with the rest of the heavies because you don't have the armor. You need to be somewhere else. Basically, never try and be where your big heavy tanks are. Always be somewhere else where the enemy have to turn to look at you, okay? Because you don't want to be taking hits. You want to be helping out. The best way you can help your team out in this tank is by crushing stuff. And like this. Batchat there. Finish him off. He went way too aggressive, way too quickly. I don't think I maybe should have grabbed a reload here in hindsight. I don't. I do wait until I'm unspotted, however. Just give it a few seconds, and then I have a quick peek to make sure there's nothing just to the right of that rock in front of me. Then I come around the corner. I think this bush is kind of bugging out for me. Anyway, 5100 right there. 2 quick rounds into him, dug back behind the rock. Again, nice and safe here. They've only got one RT. It is a good RT player, but I know he's probably not aiming at me, so I'm alright to just sit here. And this tank does have some camo rating. It's got about 6% when not moving. Not great, but still, when you're in a bush and when you're looking at as the heavy tanks, you can make that work. So anyway, reloading my clip. Watch for that 5100 where he's coming from. Not coming from me. That's alright. Again, I can sit here because the guys have not spotted me yet. They'll spot me when I fire, but not before then. E75. 1. I know they've spotted me now. Right now I know I'm spotted. 2. Now, I think here is where I take a shot from that E100 you can see to the right. Now I kind of weighed up my options because the E75, as you can see, I've got his lower plate flush. I don't want to waste this opportunity to try and get some damage on him. Now the E100 does kind of snapshot me. He turned his turret and shot within about a second, so he was quite lucky to hit me. I just reload quickly and get a final parting shot on him. I do take a shot from something else doing that, but to finish off the E75, I think it's worth it. Some people may say it wasn't, but the thing is, if I'd have gone out, fired 2 shots and pulled back in again, the E75 would have known that I was there. Now he knew. Now I'd been lit up on the map anyway, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. So before I shot at the AMX, the E75 might have known I was there, but maybe he thought I didn't have shots on him. Any number of reasons. Okay, so when I come round and start shooting at him, if I'd done 2 shots into him and hadn't killed him, he would then think, oh fuck, well that guy's going to come round the corner again in a second, I should angle myself against his position maybe, you know. However, I knew that right then, you know, coming round, I needed to make all that I could of that situation, you know, to really take him out of the game, because the E75 does have really trollish armour, and you know, I didn't want to have, I just really wanted to get rid of him. I think it was worth it, taking the hit from the E100. Having said that, I didn't think I was going to take it from the E100, but I did. He snapshotted me, I got kind of unlucky, but yeah, again, still a decent trade, I think. And again, this is just showing you guys that, you know, as a frontline tank, this thing still does work. I mean, I'm using camo here. I quickly check over there just to make sure the AMX isn't going to come round. Although I think it's actually dead by now, but anyway. Pop round, spot up the E100. And I know they can't see me, so I'm right to sit here. IS-4, start putting rounds on his lower plate. I only take 2 shots, I really don't want to take another slap from that E100. So I chill out a little bit. I know that now that Panther 2 is being so aggressive, as you can see, that they're probably not looking at me anymore. He takes a big hit from something. Ah, that's a Lerva out in the open. 1 shot, 2 shots. Again, I kind of had more time there and made sure that those shots really connected. Clipping again, done almost 4,000 damage, and I don't know about you guys, and you know, again, I'm not showing you whole replays, I'm just showing you situations where this tank can really be made to work. This is a really good spot, and they are at the perfect range. This is kind of a perfect storm. They can't see me until I start shooting. T30 over there, bang. 2. He's looking at me now. He's still moving his hull, so I know he can't be aiming accurately. I take time with the last shot. I know he's moving. I know nothing else can hit me, so I'm right to do that. I track him with the last hit, but that's okay. 5,000 damage. And, I mean, I don't want to say it's like taking candy from a baby, but I mean, again, guys, you know, all these replays I'm showing you, you know, people might be saying, oh well, you know, you get these games where you get in these positions quite often and you can do shitloads of damage because of all these factors. I've only played 30 games in this tank. And I do average of 4.1k damage a game. This is not that rare, these situations, you know, because even if the camo wasn't here, I could still pop out, get a shot or 2 away, and reverse back again, you know. I roll out again, try and get some spots. Can't see anything, that's okay. That means they probably can't see me either. Roll out, there's the E100. Not gonna get any shots on him really. Nowhere on him I can shoot. I'm trying to get his lower plate. Try and spot the IS-4, that's right, T30 shows up. I track him, that's unfortunate. Take him out of the game. And grab a reload. I'm now reloading heat. Why am I reloading heat? Well, because I'm now facing an E100 and IS-4. If those things angle themselves properly, I'm not going to pen them. And I'm really the only threat. Not the only threat, but I'm the biggest threat right now to them. So they're going to be angling themselves against my position right now. So I need to, you know, really be careful and load the ammo that's going to get the job done. There's the IS-4. Just see his lower plate. Not a great shot by me, but it happens. A load of stuff gets spotted, so I just move back right away. Heat rounds, just kind of abusing the pen on them to get the IS-4. Pop back round again, have a quick look. Lerva. E100. Track him. I roll back because I think he's looking at me. Got 1 shell left in the clip. At this point, kind of deciding what to do with it. I could just reload, but I think screw it. There's the E100. I try and put a round into his turret and I just miss his tank completely. Accuracy on this gun can be a bit troll, as you can see. Sometimes you've got to deal with it. And as you can see, guys, I mean, I've pinned, so this was a game with not that many tier 10s. So what tier 10s were on the other team? E4, didn't see him. But what I did see was the E100, the IS-4, the Batchat, the T30, and the E75. Now, if you guys remember, I pretty much single-handedly killed the T30 and the E75. I'm pinning the IS-4 and the E100 down because they're terrified to move out of that position, as well they should be. I finished off the bat shot at the start. You know, this is a game where I do carry pretty hard. Roll out again. See, E100's he's facing my direction. I roll back because I think he might have spawned me, but no, Sixth Sense still hasn't gone off. You see, he's staring straight at me. IS4. I roll back again instantly. Don't want to take the hit from the E100. Not worth it. If he wants to waste his time staring at me, he's more than welcome. I wait till I go back into camo again. Have a quick peek round the corner. E100 still aiming at me. Now he's not, he's looking somewhere else. I can see that out of the corner of my eye, so I'm okay to stay here. Finish off the IS4. 7,100 damage, 4 kills. Heat rounds for the win. Again, if I'd be firing normal shells at the IS4, I maybe still could have killed him there, but I didn't, you know, I was firing at an angled IS4 and an E100. Didn't want to take the chance. Anyway, that's that game. 7,000 damage, 4 kills. As you can see, guys, this tank just crushes stuff. Anyway, one final replay coming up for you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Airfield. This is the final replay that I'm going to be showing you today. Just really trying to emphasise what this tank can do in certain situations. I'll speed it up a little bit so we can get to the relevant parts. So this map, sometimes you kind of struggle for places to go in this tank. It's not quick, so it can't get to the spots where, you know, mediums can, and you do kind of play this like a medium in some ways, but it does have quite a unique playstyle. Again, on this map, you do have the gun depression to work these lines, but you're very exposed from kind of all sorts of places from around here when you do pop up here or here. These ridges here and here are normally pretty good places, but again, the mediums will get there before you. Here I'm top tier, so I really need to hold this part of the map right here where I am now. If I don't, then, you know, they'll just break through, really. They do have a lot of tank destroyers, which means pushing their base is going to be hard, but because of that, we should win this area here. We've got more heavy tanks, and yeah, we should be able to hold it. And as long as people don't push onto the guns of those tier 10 tank destroyers, we should be okay. So we'll see what happens. Straight away, as you can see on the map, our E5 is here and our IS7 is over there. So I don't want to be really emo and be like, well, this is already lost, but it kind of is. There are only 2 tier 10 heavies apart from me. They're the tier 10 heavies who can actually take hits, and they've decided to sit in flat out the most retarded positions they could find. The E5, he can go over here if he wants to. If you're a top tier heavy though, you should go over here. That's him being there is worthless. The IS7 that thinks he's trying to fucking snipe blows my mind. But anyway, you know, you get these teams. But yeah, I mean, it just means we've essentially, you know, we should be holding this bit here, and now we can't because we've lost our two biggest tanks. I can't, you know, in this tank, you know, I do my best, but you can't hold off an advance. You can't hope to bounce stuff. You can't abuse your armour, you know. So this tortoise starts to roll forward. Now I've seen, as you can see, that AMX over there. He's popping out. I'm safe to do this because that tortoise is pushed up to there, which means that anything that is going to shoot me will shoot the tortoise first, which gives me time to just finish off this AMX. Put a couple of rounds into him, and then reverse. Grab a quick reload as well. Only 20 seconds, not a big deal. While the tortoise did do that and kind of allow me to kill that AMX, I'm not sure what his plan is. He's just rolling forward onto all sorts of nasty tanks, and it's just not going to end very well for him. Spotted that E4, and that E4's making a move. Good job I reloaded. Grab that reload, and now we kind of see the effects of it. I try and have a peek to see where he is. I don't quite have the gun depression to shoot him if he does come up, but there he is. So my friend right there and the IS-8 all aiming at him. My friend puts a round into him and tracks him. The IS-8 gets a decent round into him. The E4 returns fire and slaps the IS-8 for most of his health. Now, again, this tank right here, my tank, all about situational awareness. The E4 has fired. Nothing else is a threat to me, so I can roll out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Before he gets his second shot off, 1679 damage, just completely wipe him off the map. Excuse me if you're here drinking a beer. It's all good. Yeah. So there we go. This really just showing that this tank is, you know, it just crushes things. If you can get into the right situations where you can abuse the gun, then you really, you know, this is what I mean by support tank. 1600 damage, you can get that away in, you know, 6 seconds. Anyway, so now the Tortoise has just decided to YOLO Silverside. It's kind of my job now to hold this flank. Not amazingly happy about that, but it means if there's a chance arises, I have to take it. Now, like this. That Lurver is pulling, if you can see, he's way further out than the M60, which means that I can do this and not get punished for it, because he can only see me. He takes a snapshot and bounces, and I finish him off with another decent roll. 3 kills, about 3k damage now. Roll back again. And again, you know, just showing what this tank does. This is a shock tank. That IS-8, not really sure what his plan was there, but I don't think it worked out very well. Ferdinand finishes him off. Luckily I've got the gun depression to make this work. Nice short reload. Start clipping the Ferdinand. Now, bounce the Ferdinand there, as you can see, but I had a pretty good position to shoot him. But I do get hit by the arty. Now, on this map where I am here, the arty I know just because, you know, he can't be over here, because otherwise, actually, he could have been over there, but I know he isn't, just because where his shots are coming in from. He's sitting literally right here, which means he's got a direct line of sight just to there. Really good spot for arty. Finish off the Ferdinand, 4k damage. M60 comes round, I wait for my track to repair, and pull back on another reload. There goes the MX, he's going down into the middle. Really just doing my best to hold this area of the map right now, it's pretty dicey. I roll all the way back because I know the only other tank up there, apart from the M60, is the Jagdpanzer E100. Now there he is. Now, I'm trying to get a shot on his cupola. Now, if he had less than 1600 health, I would be pretty happy to roll up onto him, let him hit me for 1050 damage, and kill him. However, he's got 1823 health, so which means that the chances I could clip him, but I'd have to get some very high rolls on all my shots, and then I'd just take 1000 health, and I wouldn't kill him. Essentially, because according to the stats, I'm a better player than he is, and my health, each percentage of my health is worth more to our team. So to my team than it is to his, because I mean, according to the stats, I do more with each percentage of my health than he does. So me taking a hit from him is not really worth it. However, I probably would have if I could have killed him, because if we can do that, then we can kill the M60, and then that solves a lot of problems. We've completely cleared this flank out. Okay, yes, there's probably some other tank destroyers over there, but you know, what can you do? However, I'm not going to do that. I'm trying to help out my T28 prop friend. Just about managed to save him, finish off the M60. The Jagdpanzer's trying to roll onto me from what I can see. The RT tries to hit the T28 prot and misses. And I'm backing off now. I can't take that Jagdpanzer on from the front. No point me doing it at all. And this is kind of really where this battle ends. I stay alive for a while longer, but I can't do anything about that Jagdpanzer E100. I'm keeping an eye on him in case he does roll on T28 prot. However, the AMX somehow manages to kill him and finish him off. Or maybe the RT does eventually. Yep, there we go. GW Tiger P. RT's done good work in this game as well. I have a roll up just to see what the Jagdpanzer 100 is doing. He's still just sitting there waiting in the wings. Swiftly roll back again. Don't want to get hit by him. I thought I could maybe get a cheeky shot off or two. So I just keep rolling back, and again I can't. So essentially here I'm cornered between the Jagdpanzer 100 and a Waffle Traeger. Yeah, I mean, against those two tanks, what can you do? Our IS-7 has still done dick all the entire game, but that's what happens. See if I can get a shot on the E5. Here comes the Jagdpanzer up behind me. I duck down here. Good hit by the RT. He's now on 1400 health, but again at this point the situation's changed. Earlier on I probably would have taken the hit, but now I need, you know, if somehow this game does end really well, I need to be able to have the health around. Oh dear. Now that's bad because there's few sites in the game that's scarier than that. So he fires, puts a round right there, kills my commander. Okay, fine. Now I put a round back into him. He puts another round into me, destroys my turret so I can't move it. Another round into him. Now, if you look where I aimed, this was completely undeliberate. Pretty sure I destroyed his gun, because now he's backing off, and that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I'm unlucky that I don't kill him, but it happens. RT very nicely finishes him off. And that's really kind of it for this game. 6.3k damage, 5 kills. I'm now pinned in by this Jagdpanzer. I could have driven round here and gone up there, but again, I don't think it would have helped much, really. I mean, maybe it would have, so, you know, I could have done more, to be honest, but the biggest threat on their team right now is this guy, and I felt I needed to do something about that. Their IS-7 is still doing absolutely nothing, and I basically just remain here and get RT'd for the rest of the game. I could have done more, but I was kind of feeling a bit sorry for myself at this point, because it's like, well, I've got, you know, as many kills as the rest of the team put together, and probably done as much damage as the rest of the team put together. Like, you know, I was in a sort of, well, fuck it kind of mood, you know. I'm not going to super try hard when the team can't even, you know, live long enough, you know, when our tier 10s are doing shit like this, you know. So anyway, enough of me being emo. Back to the garage. So the T57 heavy tank. Final thoughts. Really, really good. Love this tank to bits. Gun is incredible. The armor's not great, but you can bounce some lower tiers. It's not slow, but it's not fast. You know, it's got some camo. So it's all right. You kind of meh, but the gun just makes up for it. This gun is an absolute beast, and as you've seen from the replays, you really just crush stuff. You really, really do. The line from tier 7 up, it's an absolute joy to play. I love autoloader tanks personally. I think you guys will too. The line is fantastic. I really, really recommend you do it. Can be expensive with the premium rounds that you do need sometimes, but you know, every line has its drawbacks. That's pretty much it. I have to say it's definitely my favourite tier 10 that I own right now. I really like the gun carriage as well, but I think this really takes the biscuit. So that's pretty much it. Really, really can't recommend it enough. I will probably be doing a review on the IS-6 next, or something like that, so you guys can have a look at that. Maybe the ISU-152, which again is another absolute beast. Yeah, huge tanks. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Get yourself one of these. It's an incredible tank, and I'll see you next time.